Hello and welcome to the News Minute. The Kallakurichi illicit liquor tragedy has shocked the entire country. So far, 59 lives have been lost, and it has created massive outrage in Tamil Nadu. And now questions are being asked of the Tamil Nadu government as to who is responsible for this tragedy. To talk about this, I have with me the founder of People's Watch NGO, Mr. Henri Tiphagne. Sir, thank you so much for talking to us. Is this tragedy avoidable, sir?
Well, it's a very, very sad event. We register our very strong sympathies with those who have lost their breadwinners. But the question really is what you're asking, is this avoidable or not? In a state where almost in competition you've had two governments, one after the other, having not changed their policy of state-supported liquor shops. Let me put it in very plain terms. State-supported liquor shops. And the difference being I closed 500, you closed 1,000, or you closed 1,000, I closed 1,500. You have created a culture for everyone to have access to the liquor shops. And I'm not here canvassing for prohibition. Let me be very, very clear. This is not the platform to do so. The poor have their reasons for accessing the liquor shops. And once the state has made it a policy that you run your government with the revenue that you draw from there, then you should see who your best beneficiaries of that particular programs are. And most of the poor are your major beneficiaries. And it is only because you are not making available liquor at an affordable price, quality liquor at an affordable price in the Tasmark shops owned by the government of Tamil Nadu, that this consumer is forced to take recourse to illicit liquor. And this I want to emphasize. And without blaming the ADMK and the DMK into this, both have the same policy. At this point of time, you can have people screaming at one screaming at the other. But I think both should realize that both the parties in both their own respective governments have had this as a policy. And now you see that in the heart of a village, as News Minute itself had come out with in your story, it is in the middle of the village that you have this entire selling going on.
Middle of the town, middle of Kallakurichi town.
That it is going on. So this is nothing being done in hiding. There is no illegality. There is nobody to prevent it. While there is a whole prohibition enforcement wing which is supposed to be looking at this, and therefore the police today in the case is being registered due to the death of 59. You are saying somebody just told me it was 60. I'm sure it is going to reach a higher level with the people who are battling for their lives in the different hospitals. It is not being said with pleasure, but the targeting is very, very clear. The targeting is on those who are selling the liquor, and they are not the people who are responsible. The people who should be held responsible are the authorities, whoever they are, whatever ranks they are. If the government is serious about this tragedy, as it said it was about the earlier tragedy 1 year ago, then the heads that have to roll and the investigations that have to be initiated are against those police officers responsible for the prohibition enforcement wing, number one. This is something that I wanted to first say. Two, can this be avoided? Yes, it can be avoided. We know who are supplying liquors to the government of Tamil Nadu. The liquor lobby, where it is manufactured, who the manufacturers are. This is not the audience to get into that conversation. But it is up to the government, which has opened these shops, to make sure that there is availability of quality liquor at prices which are reasonable for the poor to access in their own shops. And if you don't do that, you are forcing people into these illegalities. And there is your police force, and I'm sad to use this word, making money over the poverty of people and being safeguarded by a government, because the government needs to safeguard itself. And the only way it can safeguard itself is by safeguarding its police. I say this with great respect. We know senior officers who are very concerned, perhaps more concerned than you, Shabbir, or me. But at the bottom line, it is people at different levels who are benefiting out of this illegal illicit liquor being made available, not only in Kallakurichi, throughout the state. So therefore,
Sir,
this is avoidable. That is the answer. It is avoidable, provided some heads roll, there are arrests made. There are not suspensions made. There are arrests made. When somebody else commits an offense, you don't wait till your investigation is over to arrest the person. You arrest the person immediately. Do arrests of police people whom you are very clear were responsible for this negligence. Human rights is the right to life of people. It is the right to equality of people. And here the human rights of people, their right to life has been affected. And that has been affected due to the negligence of government servants. And if it is government servants' negligence which has been responsible, this is a human rights violation. And the state has a role to step in. This legislative assembly is in session. This is the time to act. A government that refuses to act today will find itself in very difficult circumstances tomorrow. It may be easy for you to tackle and keep behind bars some people, but it is very difficult to continue in power if you do not act now. You have refused to act against police officers in the past. You refused to act against Balveer Singh in the past. You have always been trying to cover up these kind of police officers who are blatantly negligent. Here is an occasion when the government, if it is truly independent and if it is truly following the principles of social justice, then here is the time to act.
So you spoke about fixing responsibility, but in this case, the government says that they have taken action. They have transferred the collector. They have suspended an IPS officer for the very first time after this tragedy. They have also transferred the officers who were part of the prohibition enforcement wing. Is that action enough?
Transfer is only a transfer.
And also, just give me a second. I'll add this question: is transfer and suspension a punishment?
Shabbir, they have registered a criminal case. The investigations are going on. And we were also told that that investigation was handed over to the CBCID. Now, if CBCID has started investigations and there is a dedicated superior officer, senior officer appointed to lead that investigation, the investigation should start with arrests of police personnel who have been negligent. If that doesn't happen and only transfers happen, I know transfers took place in different places across the state. We don't need to get into all those past incidents. That is never an action. And their suspensions are never an action. We know for 2 days the suspension will be known to people. The third day, the person who is suspended will continue without disciplinary actions being initiated. Only because we have been pestering them have the disciplinary actions in Thoothukudi against police officers still been kept alive. But that needs so much of pressure. Does the DMK government require that kind of pressure? Do our members of parliament, whom we elected recently and who proudly say that they are 40 across 40, do they not feel that this is the time to act? If they do not, people of the state will take law into their hands. And fortunately, you're forcing them to do so. I am not supporting any political party here. Let us be very clear. I made it very clear in the beginning. ADMK has the same policy. DMK has the same policy. And if you do not cater to a rehabilitation of people who have got into a whole habit of drinking, you don't have a rehabilitation policy in the state, then you are welcoming people to continue drinking. And the poorest of the poor are the victims of these kind of tragedies.
Sir, also, this is a clear case of deterioration of law and order, because a similar incident happened last year in Marakanam, in Chengalpet district and Viluppuram district, where 23 people lost their lives. No lessons have been learned, and once again we see a similar tragedy unfolding right in front of our eyes.
I believe, Shabbir, and I say this with respect, I would not like to name police officers because this is not the time to pit one against the other. But there are police officers in the state who have taken action in matters of illicit liquor as well as drugs in the state and brought or attempted seriously to bring things under control. So Tamil Nadu police cannot do this is not a phenomenon that people can believe in. It can be done. There are very good officers. The government should not tie up their hands. The government should have the courage to appoint them in these places at this point of time and say, you take responsibility. Unfortunately, those kind of officers are not preferred, is my humble opinion. It is not that we don't have the potential. We have that potential of very senior officers, committed officers who will not turn this side and that side, but they should not be interfered with when they act. And unless you put some police officers, even if they are senior, in their places, things will continue. Let us not forget the case of a DGP in Tamil Nadu who finally had to be convicted after his retirement in a case of sexual harassment. He had several traits of this sort throughout his career. And this is not the time to list that out. But had this been handled at the right time, in the right manner, we would not have had such a shameful incident of a DGP being convicted in the state of Tamil Nadu for sexual harassment. This is equivalent. This is same. If you do not act against police officers, you are responsible for non-accountability of the police. And when there is non-accountability of the police, it leads to law and order situations of a very, very bad nature. And we are in a very difficult situation. If law and order is the issue that will be raised up, you know who will gang with whom, and we will see what the consequences are for a democratically elected government in this state. And therefore, action is the only way out. Please do not satisfy anybody. Be brutal in your action. Your actions will speak for yourself, and simultaneously have a policy. As long as you keep your liquor shops open, keep an open policy of liquor which is priced low for the poor, and advertise that. Let people have access to that. They don't have access to cheap liquor, and that is why, and your liquor shops rates are going up, and that is why they are forced to take refuge under these kind of illicit liquor outlets that are being made available, for which police are also being bribed, very heavily bribed. Without police protection, all this, to believe that all this was taking place without police action is, if they have not arrested somebody after 60 lives have gone, that speaks very, 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 very poorly about a chief minister who otherwise we usually are very careful in criticizing.
But what do you have to say about a government that is refusing to learn lessons from a similar tragedy in the past? The entire system knows how this entire mafia, operates, and they all know who are these people who are distributing liquor, who are brewing this liquor, who are part of this entire cartel. What can we say about a government that is refusing to learn its lessons?
Unfortunately, and I say it with no anger against the government, but with concern about the affairs of our government, the chief minister has to throw away a fence that he has allowed to build around him, which is informing him things not correctly. Let me put it the most polite manner possible. That fence has to be removed. That firewall has to go. And that firewall is through executives as well as within the party. So the chief minister can take a padayatra from Chennai to Kallakurichi, but the padayatra route will be so well sanitized that the truth will always be hidden till the end. He has to ensure that within his party, he has access to the correct information. He has to undertake exercises that the executives surrounding him bring the plain truth to him. It is because he does not have access to the plain truth, or he is overpowered by those who have the news, who have the truth with them, that they have him in their control, that things are not changing. And therefore this has to change. We are all people who are not anti-government. We are not anti-social justice government, but a social justice government has to perform, has to act. When a tragedy of this type takes place, we don't talk about social justice. We talk about standing on the side of the victims who have been there. It is not enough to only say their education will be looked after they reach their majority, they can enter colleges and there will be fixed deposits in their name. All that is fine. But this will repeat. Today it is yesterday it was Barakanam, today it is Kallakurichi, tomorrow it can be another place. And it's a sad reality that the poor will always continue to be the victims. And if you look at who the victims among the poor are, then you will get much more truths which come out here. These are toiling masses of our country who are losing their lives because of the policy of the government. And if that policy is leading to this, you have to review that policy. But that's a different debate altogether. But as long as you have this policy of open liquor shops run by the government, then you have to also ensure that this prohibition wing of yours, where you have so many officials, is taken responsibility at. And that has not been unfortunately done. The CBCID has to prove that it is an independent agency with high-ranking officers of quality. If they really want to prove themselves, first arrest the police officers whose negligence was responsible for this business to carry on in Kallakurichi, in the center of the town. If you don't do that, no amount of talking in your assembly, no amount of allowing the opposition to walk out, etc., is going to save things. I'm not speaking on behalf of the opposition. I'm speaking on behalf of the people of the state who want this government to take action. And they may also belong to your own government. They may not speak, but people in your own government, officers in your own government, may perhaps be wanting to say the same thing that I'm saying, maybe much more stronger in the words that I have expressed.
And like you said before, an illicit liquor mafia cannot operate without the knowledge of the police. When there are checks and balances, when there are agencies that are specifically looking into these kind of activities, how can they turn a blind eye? And then why should the chief minister wait now? Because the tragedy has happened and it's been more than a week. And why is the chief minister still hesitating? There is some kind of hesitation on his part.
That hesitation is definitely visible by the fact that no actions have been taken, and they try to hide under the transfers and suspensions as actions initiated. I'm sure everybody knows that these are not sufficient actions, but this will lead to a situation where you are opening doors to talk about the mafia. And the mafia is, you'll have to see who the partners of this mafia are, where their allegiance goes. It is not my purpose to open that debate here, but that mafia, you have to distance yourself from that mafia if that mafia is anywhere closer to you. And if that mafia has been responsible, hold the mafia responsible in that criminal investigation that is taking place. Why is that not being done? So that is the action that the state and the people who voted for you, who voted for your government, who voted for your members in parliament, who voted for your alliance partners, members in parliament, this is what we are all collectively asking. Maybe because they are alliance partners, they are hesitating to speak. And therefore, we who have the freedom to speak have a duty to speak now and not remain silent as hypocrites.
There are two names of sitting DMK MLAs that have come up. In fact, PMK founder Ramadas and several other politicians have also named them, but they have also, sent a legal notice to him, accusing him of trying to malign the image of these MLAs. But as these names have cropped up, do you think that somewhere, as a DMK party president, the chief minister has the responsibility of looking into it and addressing this issue, or issuing a clarification on what exactly has happened? What was their role?
I'm repeating exactly what I said earlier, and I use this question to answer the same. On one side, he has a firewall within the within the executives, and that firewall has to be broken. There are executives who are close, who keep him informed of matters which they think would be music to the chief minister's ears, and I think that has to be taken seriously by a chief minister who speaks otherwise, who expresses otherwise, and who publicly postures himself differently. The same is within the party, and not only on this issue. And therefore, if anybody, and I'm not wanting to bring in political colorings to somebody who might have indicated to MLAs, if somebody's names, as we mentioned, as an independent chief minister and as the leader of as the very respected leader, unanimous leader of a ruling party and a ruling alliance in the state, you have every moral duty to look at the accusations made rather than then throw it at somebody saying it is the opposition speaking. It is only the opposition. We have a poor opposition. Let me be very honest in this. We have a very poor opposition. And having a poor opposition in a state is not good for the democracy of the state. And from the democracy that we all cherish and that we all want to promote at the national level, and that we all held DMK and its allies responsible for at the national level, I think that democracy should also have its quality represented in terms of proper participation in the state. And there you give opposition MLAs, you give opposition parties a hearing. And if the opposition leaders have stated something, even if it is to your ears, it is something which is coming from with political vendetta, please have an independent mechanism to verify whether it is true or not. And if it is true, and your conscience proves it, it is time you act. Acting on such issues alone will ensure that the DMK here will continue to respect democracy and have the moral strength within yourself to be in alliance with opposition parties at the national level. And we say all this with great respect. It is always with great respect we say this. Public criticism is a must, and civil society cannot be seen to be keeping quiet at such times. And that is why we are speaking out.
And my last question to you, sir, you spoke about a weak opposition, but there are also alliance partners who are very vocal, who are very strong. Somewhere, do you feel that the alliance partners have also been very meek? They are not questioning the government enough, or just being an alliance partner, they are like, taking it lightly?
I say so. I agree with you. I mean, I agree with you with a lot of. I mean, I cannot but agree with you. Alliance partners should have spoken now. Alliance partners are people who have very, very strong principles. These are parties with lots of principles. These are parties which have followings which are statewide. They are not ordinary parties. The alliance partners are serious. It's a different question that alliance partners have no role in the government. That's a different question altogether. But this is the time for alliance partners to speak. And this is the time also for the chief minister to understand that if this alliance has to continue, alliance should also have role in governance. And if you do not give alliance partners a role in governance, you are weakening your own alliance partners. And the weakening of the alliance partners is exactly what you have pointed out, Shabbir, now so beautifully. Alliance partners, to be able to speak, should also have a stake in the government. If you only have a stake in seats and vote sharing and vote capturing, etc., that is not the true democracy that this DMK in collusion with all the other India partners is promoting across the country. It has to start from home. And therefore, alliance partners, I would say, yes, they are not being as vocal as they should be, is something to be critical about. But I also use this occasion to say that alliance should not remain with elections. Alliance should also go into government. And if it doesn't get into joint governance in the state, the 2026 elections are not too far away. And we might see different alliances taking place, because people will ultimately be your masters at that point of time. And therefore, loving this government, hoping this government survives, hoping this government takes the right steps, that is the purpose of speaking out in the open. It is not to criticize and pull down a government. There are enough forces wanting to do those acts. But we have to speak because we want this government also to be strong, but strong not through inaction, strong through acting. And things are sometimes beyond your control as a government. And at that times, that is the occasion when we are able to see the statesmanship of a chief minister. And that is exactly what I would like, and many people in civil society would like to see, the statesmanship in Mr. M.K. Stalin at this point of time. Let heads roll and let messages go very clearly that such nonsense is not going to be tolerated by the DMK government. And that is what is the message. These are the occasions when you get these opportunities to behave as a statesman. And I request, once again, with all humility, I request, and with all honesty, I request that actions beyond catching hold of bootleggers is resorted to in Kallakurichi. And the message goes very clear in the spine of the police that this is not a chief minister who will tolerate this kind of nonsense of inaction which comes out of criminal negligence.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for talking to us. We'll also closely monitor this story and follow all the developments. If there are any major developments, then I'll speak to you again, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shabbir. Thank you. Let's hope things actually change.